Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. Excuse me for looking crazy right now. Had to switch back into my black shirt for the video, and I'm looking kind of crazy because I literally just woke up from a nap. But I came back because I wanted to do some more videos for y'all. Man, I'm over 1,000 subscribers and I'm at 2,000 watch hours. I'm literally like blown away. Like once I seen that, I had to wake up. I had to record a new video and I had to come back because I want y'all to know that I do appreciate y'all supporting me, and I do want to bring y'all as much content as y'all want, obviously. I mean, if y'all watching this much. So if you're ready to get into this video, go ahead and hit like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. Let's get these reactions going, y'all.
About 20 years ago, I went on a camping trip with my friend Christian. At that time, we were both around 21 years old. To get to the camping site deep in the forest, we rode together in Christian's car. When we arrived, it was early evening, and we had a great time fishing and grilling meat. I went to sleep soon after we ate, but I woke up in the middle of the night because I needed to pee. I opened the tent and went outside. My eyes were drawn up to the bright moonlight. I walked over to the tree line and relieved myself, looking around to make sure nothing was nearby. As I was zipping up my pants, I saw a large, dark silhouette moving in the forest. I thought for a moment that it was a bear, and I was gripped by fear. But when I looked closely, it slowly became more visible in the darkness. It looked like a human figure, but it was incredibly big. He slowly approached me. When he came out of the forest and was illuminated by the moonlight, I could make out his appearance. He was at least twice my size and had a huge angular face like a primitive man. He was covered in fur and not wearing any clothes. More noticeable than anything else was that he was making a strange sound that I had never heard before. It was like a sharp sound made by strongly scraping his vocal cords. Every time I heard it, I felt goosebumps race across my whole body. His face was clearly a human face, and although it was hard to see because it was covered in fur, it looked like he was smiling.
Okay, so first mistake that he made is, number one, why are you in the forest with no weapons? And why are you hopping out of your tent in the middle of the night with no weapon? You don't know what's out there. So all my young people that's watching this video, understand that if you're going to be in a environment where you know nothing about, like the forest or anything like that, do not go into this environment without some sort of weapon, because you don't know what you might run into. Number one, the forest is not your environment. That environment belongs to those animals, and they're used to that environment. You're not, so you need to be prepared.
In his hands, he was holding large rocks. They were massive, around the size of basketballs. He was holding each of the enormous rocks with one hand. He didn't look to be straining at all, like they weren't heavy at all to him. He approached me slowly. I asked him who he was and what he needed, but he didn't seem to understand me. He seemed to be mumbling something, but it didn't sound like language. I felt an inexplicable sense of despair and fear rising from my stomach. The instant I looked into his eyes, my whole body became paralyzed. Before I could even think of anything, every cell in my body was overcome by fear. I had enough time to run to the tent, but my body wouldn't move. Looking back now, I think I already instinctively knew at that moment that there was nothing I could do. His physical ability was several times greater than mine, so even if I ran, he could catch up to me in a matter of seconds. And I knew that if I ran, I would provoke him even more, so there was nothing I could do. He was finally close enough to touch me. He looked at me curiously and felt the flesh on my arm. And then he pressed hard on my stomach with the back of his hand. It seemed as if he wanted to know what was inside my stomach. I pushed his hand away with everything in me, but he didn't move. He was like a statue. Meanwhile, Christian seemed to be sleeping soundly in the tent. Funnily enough, at that moment, I felt that even if I got eaten by that monster, I wanted Christian to survive. I wasn't a coward, I was a normal adult male, but I felt so small in front of that huge man. The creature in front of me didn't have the feel of a human. Standing before him was like being in front of a bear or a lion. I kept asking him what he wanted, but he didn't respond. Then after a while, he frowned and circled around me. He was still holding the rocks in his hands. I couldn't take my eyes off him for a second because I was afraid that he would hit me with the rock. Of course, I also simulated it countless times in my head. I imagined launching a surprise attack on him while he looked away from me. However, I had a gut feeling that he wouldn't budge even if I punched him. That's how big and strong he was. He circled around me once more and then slowly started to move away, and finally seemed to lose interest in me. My head was dizzy as I watched him move away. I guess I was so scared that I couldn't breathe properly. He suddenly started running incredibly fast and disappeared into the forest. As I had intuited, his motor skills were several times greater than a human's, and his running speed was so fast that my eyes could barely keep up. I walked over to Christian's tent and woke him up. I told him what happened to me, but he seemed incredulous. But when he smelled that horrible stench coming from me and saw that I was drenched in sweat, he understood that something had really happened. We quickly packed up and drove away. I still don't know what the human or creature I saw that day was. What did he want from me? Was he trying to eat me? The answers to many of my questions remain unanswered, and I have never gone camping again since that day.
You have to be almost...
Okay, so first off, this is my final thought on that story specifically. Number one, like I've said previously, you are in the forest with an individual or animal or whatever that you do not know, and you don't know what that animal could be. Number one, he was coming and confronting you because you in his neighborhood. He was walking up on you trying to figure out who the hell is you and why is you in my house? That forest was probably his crib. Well, whatever that is, you got to understand, us humans, we are not the only things in existence, and there are things out there that we don't know. And when we walk into their environment, I think us humans, we're so entitled that we feel like we can walk into the forest and we bet not see something that don't look like something we normally see. Number one, that's not your environment. You out there camping. Number one, he probably like, who is these people? He probably got a whole, wife and kids and all type of stuff that's all hairy and creepy looking. That's probably all been living out there for generations and hundreds of thousands of years. And they probably looking at you like, what the hell is you doing out here with all these weird fires and all this? So at the end of the day, as I always tell people, if you're going to be outside camping, make sure you understand the environment, make sure you know where you at, make sure you in communication with a park ranger or something, and make sure overall that you have a weapon. Do not be out in the middle of nowhere without a weapon to protect you, because you don't know if you're gonna run into a bear, bobcat, wolf, dog, anything. You can run into anything out in those woods. That's the main reason why you need to be overly prepared. So let's move on to the next story.
Unfortunately, or I should say, fortunately, this story is short. It was about 4 years ago. I'll keep the location vague for the sake of anonymity, but I will say it was in the northern half of Louisiana. I've lived here pretty much my whole life, and the few things I've ever experienced before this were at my father's house in Texas when I was younger, but that can be its own story. Anyway, I lived in an apartment complex about 30 to 40 minutes from where I worked. I was part of the evening shift at my job at the time. I would have to drive down a long, mostly empty road heading towards my home. This would last about 10 minutes before I had to head down a smaller, more rural suburban area. This is where it happened. It was probably a little past 11 or maybe even midnight, the usual time I got off for where I used to work. I was just driving, listening to either music or a podcast. I don't remember which. I was just...
You definitely wasn't bumping your head like that to no podcast.
Tired from work. I was relaxing and driving when my headlights illuminated something off to my right, in the ditch along the road. I only saw it for a few seconds, but I swear this pale creature, probably about 6 feet long, if not more, was sprawled out on the ground, crawling up out of the ditch, flat on its stomach. I only caught a glimpse, but I sometimes remember it having 6 limbs, other times 4. As I said, I was trying to pay more attention to the road, not expecting something like this. Either way, it startled me. I remember vividly seeing movement as I passed by, like it had crawled out of the drainage pipe and was about to head into the yard of the house I was passing. One of its long, thin, and lanky limbs reached up to place its right hand to pull itself up further. I passed it fast and did a double take, questioning what I'd seen. My mind was wondering if what I saw was real, or was I just tired, my mind playing tricks on me. Either way, I was not dumb enough to think about turning around to check it out. All the way back home, I kept driving and told myself it was just the weird way my headlights were making shadows on the rocks in the ditch. I even tried to recreate this effect for days, trying multiple ideas to recreate that effect, but never once did. Never did the shadows ever look the same as what I'd seen that night. Even trying to look out of the corner of my eyes, nothing. I asked my coworkers the following days if they'd ever seen anything like what I described, but to my dismay, they brushed it off, joking and asking, "Did you also see Bigfoot too?" I
Why they got his fingers moving like that?
wish I could say I saw it again, but I didn't. But honestly, I'm glad. It means I can keep telling myself it had nothing to do with anything but my imagination. Even so, a small part of my mind says otherwise. The best description I have for what I saw that night are those things I've heard of about crawlers. Heck, I even started to follow groups online that talk about sightings like that now. I've told a few people about this. Most folks brush it off. To be honest, I still hope it was nothing more than my headlights and shadows. But you can never be too sure. If it really is out there, please never let me see you again. Ever.
One of the things...
Okay, well, as I always say, at the end of the day, us as humans, we don't know everything. It is possible. And actually, no, not even that it is possible. We actually know for a fact because the government has even admitted it recently. There are things out there that we don't know that could already be on Earth or that could be on its way to Earth. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know everything. There are literally so many species in the, in the ocean and whatnot that we don't even know what all they are. Even in these super deep waters, there are species down there that are undiscovered. It's almost like it's a whole nother world underwater right now. And it's to the point where we can't go down there and explore it. So it's but at the end of the day, all of that stuff doesn't really matter. Just understand that there are going to be things in life that you don't know and you don't understand. But the best way that you can be safe is stay about the way and stay within a safe environment so you do not have these bad experiences. But the way you can solve all of this is if you keep a weapon on you, and if something unfamiliar tries to walk up and hurt you, you know what to do. Use the switch y'all be having.
Hi, I'm a 12th grade graduate, but this incident takes me back to my 9th grade days, when something really strange happened at our school. Imagine this, it was a normal day and we were in the middle of our 3rd period. Out of nowhere, 2 senior girls whose classroom was down the hall burst into our classroom, tears streaming down their faces. They were terrified and told our teacher, who had also been their teacher, that one of their classmates had tried to choke them in the girls' washroom. Our teacher wasted no time and rushed to the scene to investigate. They hurried to the washroom, only to find that the accused girl had somehow managed to get back into her classroom. The situation was chaos. The room was a complete mess, with books and pens scattered everywhere. The other students in her class were forced to leave, frightened and confused, not daring to go back inside. Now, here's where things get really weird. While all of this was happening, I was sitting in my classroom with my classmates thinking we were safe, but our curiosity got the best of us, and we couldn't resist peeking out to see what was happening in the seniors' classroom. Little did we know, we were about to witness something truly disturbing. As the teachers arrived, they discovered that the troubled girl had barricaded herself inside her classroom, refusing to open the door. Worried about her well-being, they immediately reached out to her mother, who shared the alarming news that her daughter had been struggling with mental health issues. She promised to come and take her daughter home. The minutes seemed to stretch into eternity as we all waited anxiously. Finally, after what felt like ages, the teachers managed to force the door open as the locks were a bit loose, revealing a scene that sent shivers down our spines. There she sat, calm and composed on the ground. But here's the strange part. All the desks had been stacked up, one on top of another, forming a towering pile. These were not ordinary desks. They were heavy wooden desks that required the strength of 3 people to move. How on earth did she manage to stack them all by herself? It was baffling. When her mother arrived, the girl remained silent, not uttering a single word. They quickly took her to the hospital, where it was later discovered that she had a brain disorder that caused hallucinations and erratic behavior. It was a heartbreaking revelation that shed some light on the bizarre events we had witnessed. Even to this day, I can't forget that incident. I still question how a seemingly fragile girl could possess such strange strength and perform such a chilling act. It serves as a reminder that there are depths to the human mind that we may never fully understand, and horrors that can emerge from within. And with this incident, I owe a debt of gratitude to my friend that day. You see, I had a strange urge to use the washroom and asked my friend to come along for a quick chat, but she insisted we wait until the next period. Little did I know that her decision may have saved me from crossing paths with that troubled girl. It sends shivers down my spine when I imagine what might have happened.
I try not to laugh, but man, these animations be looking so silly to me. Okay, so first off, yes, a lot of times when it comes down to school, to all my young people who are listening, a lot of times, you know, some of these kids are dealing with mental illness. So that's not even like surprising to me. I've seen some people do wild stuff in school. And then you got to understand nowadays, a lot of the young people experimenting with drugs. And a lot of y'all think drugs is cool, but a lot of y'all not really gamed up on like the type of ways that drugs could affect your mind. They could affect your brain. I mean, some people is really out here with like psychosis on a whole different level, where they walk in the streets talking to themselves, attacking people. Like, I have a cousin that walks in the streets and strip naked. Like, and that's literally the effects from doing drugs all of those years and never getting no help. And after a while of doing them, it affects you. I'm not saying that's what happened in this story, but I'm saying like a lot of times, like a lot of kids nowadays, they have a lot of mental struggles because of a lot of the things in society, like social media and things like that. And I feel like it puts a lot of pressure on their minds, and it legit drive you crazy. Like if you feel like you're not fitting in or you're not able to keep up with society's norms nowadays. So I would encourage any young person out there, stay away from drugs, focus on living a normal child life as possible. Don't grow up too fast. Don't be getting on social media, and don't be doing the most, because you can spiral out of control if you are not under the proper supervision and you start doing too much. But yeah, that's the end of this video. I appreciate everybody for checking out my video and checking out these reactions. If you would like to further investigate these type of animated cartoon horror videos, go check out 1C Entertainment, and that's where you can find this original video. It should be in the description. So go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will see y'all in the next video. Thank you for joining. Peace out.
JayDamage.